Hi, everyone. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we call positive self affirmations or positive self talk. And the reason I wanted to talk about that is because it's come to my attention that there are actually a lot of people out there who don't have a lot of self dialogue that's positive. Oftentimes, it's things like, oh, you're an idiot, or you don't look good enough in that outfit, you're too fat, you're too skinny, your face does not look right, you need to clear your skin, you have wrinkles, get rid of those wrinkles. In addition to that, we're also bombarded with ads on every single different way that we can improve ourselves. And there's not a lot out there that kind of just tell you every day that you are okay the way that you are. And so, how do we actually combat these kinds of messages that are getting thrown at us on a daily basis? And one of the ways to do that is to do what we call self affirmations. And for some people, I know that these may sound silly, and I know that it's not always easy to say positive things to ourselves. But I want to put it to you this way: if you have absolutely no issue saying negative things to yourself about yourself on a daily basis, then I can guarantee you that you also are just as capable of saying the positives. It's just a matter of reframing what you're doing and why you're doing it. And so with the negativity and the things that maybe you're throwing at yourself, consider the reason why you're doing that. Consider if that's actually adding to your stress and your anxiety, and your shame and things like that. And the reason why I bring shame up is because oftentimes these self dialogues that we have within us that are negative come from a place of fear and guilt and shame, because these are some of the negative things that have been thrown at us throughout our childhood. And so, not only at home, but also when we're in school and other places in our lives, at friends' houses, when we get to college, our first job. And so, so many negative things certainly do get thrown at us throughout our lifetimes. And the unfortunate part about that is if we stop for a moment and we realized or recognized that there's also so much positivity coming our way. But as we all know, it's that one negative remark out of, say, even 50 positive, that's the one we always take home. We decide we're going to use that and be ultra self-critical, and we're going to just focus on that. And then what ends up happening again is we start to almost remind ourselves that we must be this negative statement and this negative characteristic that this person said. And the truth is, sometimes the negative statement wasn't even meant to come across that way, but we become suddenly so convinced that that person must have meant this horrible negative thing that we don't even ask them for clarification. And so we've had this build up over years and years and years, from again from our childhood up into adulthood, of internalizing all of these negative remarks about us, all of these negative characteristics that we believe we have. And it is very difficult sometimes to get yourself out of that and say, wait a minute, actually, I am a unique individual. I am worth more than what these people have allegedly again said about me. And I want to be and feel better than that. And so when we talk about self affirmations, what we're really talking about is positive ways to talk to yourself, often about yourself. Maybe not just about, again, a physical characteristic, but a way that we're feeling about something, a way that we're seeing something, or something that's happened in our lives and we're trying to make a positive change. And so we have these self dialogues. And again, people talk to themselves all the time. I talk to myself more than I sometimes talk to other people. So maybe I'm a little different. I feel perfectly comfortable having these conversations with myself. But before I even just give you some examples today, keep in mind that, you don't need to necessarily yell these out to the world, although if you did, it would be amazing. But I'm just talking about maybe you get up in the morning and before you even get out of bed, you say three of these 3 times a piece. And you start your day off saying some of the most beautifully positive things to yourself, and imagine what your day would look like. And when you go to bed, say the same ones. You don't have to pick different ones. We're not trying to make this difficult. So you use the same ones. You say them 3 times again right before you go to bed. I add this to my three gratitude pieces of gratitude that I also say when I get up in the morning and when I go to bed at night. I don't say those 3 times. I just kind of list the 3 things out of that day that I'm grateful for. And I start my day off that way as well. And so, again, imagine starting your day off already on such a positive note, thinking about one, things that you are grateful for. I don't care if it's the pillow that you just slept on, the sheets that you just slept on, the pajamas that were so comfortable, the fact that you can't wait, that you have an amazing cup of coffee waiting for you. So just those three things. Again, you're already getting your mind into such a positive mindset. That doesn't mean the shit's not going to hit the fan at some point during the day. I don't think anybody expects us to have these amazing days, these perfect days, just because we've decided to talk about gratitude or do our daily affirmations. But what it does is it gives you an opportunity to start looking at how you have control over your mindset and how you can take control over your mood. And when you do those two things, you start to see shifts also in your behavior and things that you've maybe been putting off, things that you want to do and you're just not, you feel like you're not ready to do them. And when you look at the reason why sometimes you're not ready to do something, a lot of it, I would say maybe 70% of that is because you're telling yourself that you're not capable of it. And so when you're having these negative conversations with yourself, you're convincing yourself that you can't do something. When you say I'm not ready for something, really look at what that means to you. Are you really not ready for it? Like, is there really something that's standing in your way that you physically, when you look at it, you go, you know what? This isn't the right time. And there really are tangible reasons for that. Or are you looking at it saying, I'm not ready because you really feel like you are going to fail? And so, and again, that failure is a whole other conversation, and we'll talk about that another day. But I just wanted to go over just a few today, like I said, and I'll say them slowly. Obviously, you can rewind this just so that you have some. And I'm going to, before I say them to you, I'm going to have a heading just to get an idea that these are for, again, when I'm feeling angry, and these are for when I'm feeling sad. And before I even begin, one of my most favorite affirmations that was given to me many years ago, after the passing of the closest person in my life. Somebody handed me a card. And I know it wasn't necessarily meant as an affirmation, but I will tell you that I have used this as an affirmation in my life when I've been trying to get through grief and when I feel like that loss is just so overwhelming that, again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to the next day. I remind myself of this affirmation. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. And that is a Maya Angelou quote that I still have up on my refrigerator that I look at every single day. And I reminds myself, and it reminds me that I have so much to be grateful for. And I have even those losses in my life to be grateful for. So again, that quote, just to repeat it, just because I love it so much, is don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. So moving forward, and I do need to look because I have my list right here and I don't want to say them incorrectly or in the wrong order. So when feeling terrified, and so we're not talking about when your safety is in danger, but sometimes things happen in life. We start to feel panicked, anxious. So when you're feeling like that, one affirmation is, I focus on breathing and grounding myself. And so you say that 3 times. I focus on breathing and grounding myself. Part of this affirmation and why I'm making this the first one is you can also do what you're saying as you're saying it. Excuse me. So I focus on breathing and grounding myself. So in that moment when I'm feeling terrified and anxious, I want to ground myself. And how I do that is I can either stand against a wall with my hands against the wall. I can sit down with my feet planted on the ground, and I can start focusing on deep breathing. And that, in conjunction with saying your affirmation, can start to bring your breathing down. It can start to slow it down, slow your heart rate down, and bring you more to the present. And it starts to focus you again on your, on where you are and on calming everything down. My apologies. Um, Also, when you're feeling that way, when you're feeling terrified, anxious, and panicked, just saying these 3 simple words, I trust myself. I think that sometimes people don't recognize how important that is, to remind yourself that you have faith in yourself, that you have been in difficult maybe even traumatic situations in the past, and you have gotten through them. Maybe you've gotten through them with the assistance of other people, and that's fine. The fact that you've even allowed other people to help you shows that, again, you know how to get through these situations. You know when you need help. So trust in yourself. So I trust myself. When you are angry, so I would guarantee there's not one person in this world that has not felt anger at some time. And there are times when we need to take a step back and we need to recognize again that our anger cannot control us, and it cannot control our thoughts, it cannot control our mood, and it cannot absolutely control our behavior. When you are angry, I let go of my anger so I can see clearly. So even thinking about what we're saying here, imagine yourself when you have been the most angry or frustrated in your life. I would again bet that in that moment you have done or said something that you did not mean to say, did not want to say, and maybe regretted doing and saying. And that's kind of that idea of not seeing clearly, making a decision, saying something, and it's not coming from the best place. It's not coming from the best you. It's coming from the very, very angry you, the very frustrated you, and that person who is only right now looking through the lens of anger. And that's what's happening. And so, in order to bring ourselves back, we say this affirmation: I let go of anger so I can see clearly. And it's also a reminder to yourself that you're not seeing clearly and that you need to take a step back, take a moment, take a walk, do whatever you need to do before you then have to address whatever is going on in that moment. We don't want people to have regrets in life. I don't believe in regrets. I believe we're all where we're supposed to be because that's where we're supposed to be. But if we can also avoid making poor decisions and bad decisions and hurting ourselves and other people, then let's try to do that. Also, I replace my anger with understanding and compassion. I replace my anger with understanding and compassion. This is so not easy sometimes. When somebody is really, really doing something, especially if it's something that is making you angry, but you don't understand why they're doing it. And so, again, being able to step back, being able to say these affirmations just 3 times. I just said it twice. It didn't take me long at all. But what it did was it had me stop focusing on what I'm angry at, the person, if it's a person that I'm angry at. And if it's myself, same thing, I stop. And and we're going to definitely talk about that, the anger towards ourselves. I replaced it with understanding and compassion. And so just saying those words kind of brings it to the forefront of your mind. And I am going to talk about this right now, that it's not always, we talk about anger and sometimes people just automatically assume that we're talking about another person or a thing, or something that someone did to us. But the truth is, we tend to be, which is why I'm talking about this today, our own worst enemy. We tend to hurt ourselves more than anybody. We tend to be, again, harder on ourselves. We tend to get angrier with ourselves than many people. We know ourselves inside and out. But unfortunately, the person who knows us inside and out is also our biggest critic. And so when we're getting angry with ourselves about something, it's a matter of giving ourselves understanding and compassion, because we need to take a step back from that, and we need to recognize that we are human and we make mistakes, and forgiving ourselves for the mistake. And then after you've done that, then you can process it and then you can decide what to do next. And if that means that an apology needs to be made, we make it. If that means that we need to fix something at work, we fix it. Um, if we need to go into our child's room and say, I'm sorry that I all of a sudden just had that moment, that I didn't mean to have, or I said that thing I didn't mean to say. And having the the guts really to admit, when we need to be more compassionate and we need to be more understanding with ourselves. And that's not easy. And I say the guts because it takes a lot of guts to say, stop it. Stop talking down stop talking down to me. Stop telling me that I really screwed up. Stop telling me that this is something that I cannot fix, because it's not true. Um, but we can't think that way when we're so wrapped up in our own anger. Again, whether it's at someone else or at ourselves. Okay. When you're feeling hopeless, or at the end of your rope. So Obviously, I'm not having a conversation right now when we talk about hopelessness and feeling at the end of our rope. I'm not talking right now or today anyway about suicidal thoughts and things like that, self-injurious behavior. I'm literally just having a conversation right now about if you feel like you're in a situation that you can't get yourself out of. Um, you're feeling overwhelmed and you feel like, again, maybe something's going on at work and you have no idea how to fix it, how to fix your team, how to get your team together, and it's just you're at a point of kind of giving up. So here are two affirmations when you're in a situation like that. I refuse to give up because I haven't tried all possible ways. I refuse to give up because I haven't tried all possible ways. I think that's self-explanatory. This one is tricky sometimes, but I may not understand the good in this situation, but it's there. Now, you cannot see the good until you've gone kicking and screaming and yelling and everything else that you've needed to do to get your frustration out. But once you do all that, and you can, again, and I know I say take a step back often, but because I really feel that that's important for all of us in so many situations to take a step back because it gives you cause to pause and reevaluate your situation and your feelings about it and whether or not this is the moment that you should be even addressing this situation, or should you walk away, or should you come back to it tomorrow. Um, so I may not understand the good in this situation, but it's there. And I know that that is hard for people to do. Um, Especially when you have a coworker that again is maybe driving you crazy and repeatedly doing the same thing that you've asked them not to do or to do, or, or your child when you've repeatedly asked them to do something, um, and whether it be homework or whether it be, taking the dog for a walk, changing the trash, whatever it is. And you're at a point, like I said, this is hopeless and I'm at my wit's end. And so being able to just say, I may not understand the good in the situation, but it's there. And excuse me, and in those situations, part of it can be it's a teaching moment. Or part of it also is it's a teaching moment, not just for your child or to be able to be a coach with your team, but for yourself in teaching yourself patience, and knowing that, yes, nobody likes to repeat themselves over and over again, but we all know it's part of life. We all know it's definitely part of child rearing. And so, again, if that was a moment that maybe in the past you would have reacted differently, but today you did not, right there, you just pulled out the good in that situation. Okay. When you are among friends. And I'm actually going to end with this because I feel like this is one of the most positive affirmations that we can do today. And I very well may come back, depending on the response that I get, to do a lot more. I have about 100 of them, so I'm happy to share them. I'm happy to get feedback, questions, whatnot. So I'm going to end on when you are among friends. I choose friends who approve of me and love me. And when we talk about approval, again, keep in mind, this is not I'm going to change something about myself if this person doesn't approve it. This is, you're taking me for who I am. I am with friends that love me, that approve of me, that maybe they'll tell me when I'm doing something stupid, maybe they'll tell me when I'm doing something that might hurt me, but ultimately they approve of me as a human being, and that's all that matters. I choose friends who approve of me and love me. My friends do not judge me, nor do they influence what I do with my life. And again, this isn't to say that we don't take their opinions into consideration, but it means that their opinions are exactly that. They're their opinions, and we can listen, we can take them into account, but ultimately their role is maybe to advise, but not to judge. Again, unless we're doing something that is harmful to ourselves, and they just want to let us know that they care about us and they love us. And the last one I'm going to do today, again on a positive note, I take great pleasure in my friends, even if we disagree or live different lives. Again, I think that that totally goes without saying. I take great pleasure in my friends, even if we disagree or live different lives. Um, I think that especially in this current day, with so many of our contacts over social media, so many of us needing to literally lead separate lives because we can't be around each other. It's important to remind ourselves of the importance of the relationships that are important, that are important to us, and remind ourselves that we can live differently. We can be, in different states, different countries, but that doesn't mean that our friendship is less than. So I'm going to leave you all on that note. I know that, well, I should say, I hope you know that, every week we are continuing to post our COVID domestic violence videos as well. We should have another one posted for you this week. Again, I appreciate all the feedback. I appreciate the comments, any questions. Again, here I also welcome feedback. This is new for me, so any feedback I am welcoming and I'm open to. And the same thing with our COVID domestic violence videos. We're very open to feedback. We use a lot of your questions for our next topics each week. So again, I look forward to that. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thanks so much.